Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For the honor of Mawlana wa Sayyidina Rasulullah and his immaculate progeny, Ahlul Bayt, recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil faraj.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه ونعمائه ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه وحبيبه حافظ سره ومبلغ رسالاته حبيب إلهنا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب قلوبنا بالقاسم المصطفى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أعداء الله من الآن إلى لقاء يوم الدين. قال الله الحكيم في القرآن الكريم وإذ ابتلى إبراهيم ربه بكلمات فأتمهم قال إني جاعلك للناس إماما قال ومن ذريتي قال لا ينال عهد الظالمين صدق الله العلي العظيم. For the honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, and inshallah hasten his return, salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil faraj.
Thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that gave me this opportunity once again to be with my dear brothers and sisters in Seattle and Zainab Center. May Allah inshallah give us the tawfiq to take advantage of every moment of our lives, especially these 3 nights that I will be inshallah with you, and ultimately to give us the courage and strength to practice our knowledge, to stand by what we believe, and ask Allah inshallah to give us the ability to overcome hardships and tribulation of our lives, inshallah, with the mediation and intercession of Imam of our time, inshallah. Sayyidina salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
We are in the month of Safar, and as you know, we are approaching Arba'een. And month of Safar usually is about a few names. That usually commemoration of the month of Safar is for the family of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. We have sacrifice of Hazrat Zainab and Imam Zain al-Abidin to ensure protecting the message of Sayyid al-Shuhada after the tragedy of Ashura. And it is important to make sure that Imam Hussein alayhi salam's tragedy and his sacrifice is unique and upstanding and is different from other movements because of the intention behind that movement. Because we have people after Ashura, there are other movements and other uprising against Yazid. For example, we have the event of Harra, which in Medina, many people were killed because of their uprising against Yazid ibn Muawiyah. And we have that in Mecca, also Abdullah ibn Zubayr, also he started movement against Yazid, and the house of God was burned to the ground. And somebody who's not familiar with the intention behind the movement, they may think that it's the same thing. Everybody who stood against Yazid, pretty much that was a noble act, and that's something to be admired. And they should be also remembered as much as the story of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But in reality, what we know by history is that people like Abdullah ibn Zubayr, the only reason they went against Yazid ibn Muawiyah was for their own power. What they were seeking was taking over the power and continuing the path of Yazid, but just with the difference of they being the one in charge. And the stand of Imam Hussein is unique and different because of that method. And that was make sure to be protected by Hazrat Zainab. When she exposed those who accused Imam Hussein of looking for power, and the entire movement of Ashura and Karbala to be limited with understanding that Imam Hussein did it because he wanted power. That was not even what we hear today. Some ignorants who think that they know about Islam, they accuse Imam Hussein of doing the same thing. When in reality, the speech and the lecture of Hazrat Zainab, the sermon of Hazrat Zainab and Imam Zain al-Abidin is a clear proof that it was beyond just taking over of the power and authority, but it was for saving the ummah of the Prophet. As Imam himself said that I left my city لطلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي, to reform the nation of my grandfather. So I give this introduction to know that the month of Safar is the continuation of the sacrifice of Abu Abdullah Hussein and his family. And if today we have something called Ashura, is because of the month of Safar. And because of the month of Safar, we have the message of Sayyid al-Shuhada is being saved from deviance and being hijacked by people who wanted to and still want to hijack the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But it's important also to know that there are traditions, especially from Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, which they could be very enlightening and could be very helpful to our time. And what I mean by that is that the message of Imam Hussein, of course, during the first 10 days of Muharram, even after that, we hear about the message of Sayyid al-Shuhada. But ultimately, any hadith from any of the Ahlul Bayt, regardless of Imam Ali alayhi salam or Imam Baqir alayhi salam, Imam Qadim alayhi salam, the purpose of all of them is the same thing, is guidance of the mankind. And we have to teach that to our children, and also we have to confirm that with our own beliefs. We have to make sure we check that in our ideology, Ahlul Bayt, all of them are leaders to our guidance regardless of the situation that they lived in. And if each of them, they would have lived in a different time and they would have faced a different challenge, they would have done the same thing. They would stand by the same principles and values. So if Imam Ali would have lived at the time of Imam Sadiq, he would have spent most of his time to educate people and masses. If Abu Abdullah was living in the time of Imam Hassan, and instead of Imam Hassan, if he was the Imam, he would have done exactly the same thing of doing the peace treaty with Muawiyah. And it is important to understand. Yes, the time of Imam Hussein requires a qiyam. Dealing with someone like Yazid requires a sacrifice. And the time of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, which the 7th of Safar, in one of the traditions, is the anniversary of the Shahada of our second Imam, Imam al-Mujtaba alayhi salam, the peace treaty of Imam al-Hassan is as important as the rising of Imam al-Hussein against Yazid. You may ask why? First of all, and most important of all, it's important to know that the Imam does not act upon their own instinct. Imam doesn't work based on their desires. Because if that's the case, there's no difference between an Imam, an infallible leader, and a normal leader. Because if you look at presidents and you look at prime ministers and all other different form of man-made people of power, they act upon the law or instinct or whatever rules they're supposed to say that we're governed by those rules. But when it comes to the Imam is dictated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His message is the message of Allah, and establishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's message is their job. But the means and the path is also determined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Because if there's anything beside that, we could ask this question, that what if an Imam can make a mistake? God forbid. What if an Imam, whatever they did was not the best decision they could have made? So the entire Ma'mum or Shia or followers will be in jeopardy because the Imam, God forbid, made a mistake. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that's not going to be the case. The ayah recited from Surah Baqarah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that there are a few points in this ayah, and I want you to understand. This is an introduction because I've heard so many skepticism when it comes to Muharram. And that's not the first time, and that's not the first basically question that it came up. It's been out there since the Shahada of Imam Hussein. It was a doubt among people of Kufa that why Imam Hussein even came all the way from Medina to Kufa. So these doubts exist. They existed at that time and they still exist at our time as well. And I've noticed when we have Q&As, and I've been traveling after Ashura, in many Q&As there are some questions that they are related to how to preserve Muharram and why we do it, and why Imam Hussein did what he did, and why Imam Hassan did what he did. And to answer those questions is important to have some knowledge of principles of faith. Within the Islamic faith, within Shia school of thought, if we know the principles, all these doubts easily will be resolved. We can't address one question at a time or mention an ideology and resolve all those skepticism and doubts. So I think it's better to mention the concept, the principle, that will be able, is a key that you can use it to open so many locks, so many questions. So that's an introduction. So the question was that I started that Imam would have done the same thing if he would have lived at the time of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. And if the leadership is in the hand of someone who's fallible, is capable of making mistakes and error, that mentality and that ideology would put the entire religion in jeopardy. That even probably with that mentality, Imam could have done a bad job, God forbid, and all the Shia followers would have done the same mistake. But we believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Hakim, is wise, it's absolute wisdom. And because of that, He will not put human being in a position to follow a leader who's wrong. And if you look at Quran, Allah said, مَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. It's a universal rule that Allah said in the Quran, and that is that Allah will not punish anyone, any nation, regardless of the time that they lived in, unless they had the messenger. حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. Unless if it was a Rasul, a messenger appointed to them to make sure that they understand what's right and what's wrong. That would be, if they basically break the rules, after learning about the rules, there will be consequences. And that makes sense. Because beside that, how we can say Allah is adil and just, if Allah, God forbid, wants to punish somebody who doesn't know what's right and wrong, and held them accountable for that. And because of this rule, and even in Hawza they teach about this in Usul, that for example, when it comes to somebody who's insane, clinically insane, or a child, or animals, or somebody who was, let's say, out of their control for some reason, somebody forced him to do something. In those cases, the punishment will not be applicable to them. A child, if they make a mistake, you cannot punish a child for a crime, because they didn't know what's right and what's wrong. And somebody who's clinically insane, you cannot punish them because they don't know what's right and what's wrong. If somebody was forced to commit, let's say, a crime, somebody literally hold their hand and with their hand they commit, because they were not in charge, they will not be punished. It's always about knowledge. And that's the reason Allah made sure that the leadership will come from the right source. And Allah in Quran said it. وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُ. And when Allah said, we tested, we put Ibrahim alayhi salam in so many trials, بِكَلِمَاتٍ. It refers to a very extreme level of tribulation and hardship. When we put Ibrahim in those situations, فَأَتَمَّهُ, he completed. He passed all those tests and tribulation and difficulties. Then Allah said, because of that, قَالَ إِنِّي جَعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. Allah said, now because that you elevated and you passed all these different tests, we will appoint you as an imam for mankind. Indeed, I made you the imam for mankind. So this is one principle, that the imam, because this is few days ago I was teaching in this university about Shiism. And it's interesting, in their textbook they talk about Shia and Sunni, but the way that it's being defined is, which is fine, is correct, but at the same time is a bit problematic. What they define Shia and Sunni is that Sunnis are those who believe that after the Prophet, a caliph who's appointed by people will be the successor of the Prophet. On the other hand, Shias believe that the leadership should stay within the family, the bloodline of the Prophet Muhammad. If you're somebody who doesn't know Islam and doesn't know Shia and Sunni, when you read this, the first one sounds better. The second one seems nepotism and keeping everything within the family. Is a corrupt system, there is no check and balance, everything within the bloodline. When in reality, even when we say the family of the Prophet are the one leaders, it's not just because they're bloodline, they're a follower of the Prophet. They're the successor of the Prophet. But because of their character, they are worthy of being the follower of the Prophet, the successor of the Prophet. Not just the bloodline. Because there's so many other bloodline of the Prophet, such as his own uncles, that Allah said, Tabbat yada Abi Lahabin wa tab. That bloodline is not just the case. But in that definition, which because we use the word Ahlul Bayt, right? Ahlul Bayt, household, family of the Prophet. Sometimes this, as I said, misunderstanding come up. But in Quran, Allah resolved that for us. That a family of the Prophet is worthy of his successorship and following him and leading after the Prophet because of their accomplishment. And that's what we say. So find somebody more qualified than Ali ibn Abi Talib. Not as a relationship, not if he was the son-in-law of the Prophet or not, if he was the cousin of the Prophet or not. Put that aside, because there were other relatives of the Prophet who created a lot of fitna among the Muslim Ummah, including the wife of the Prophet. We have issues. But the reality is that the position itself is not enough. So look who was the first man who believed in Islam after the Prophet brought the message of Islam, made it public. Who's the one who put his life in jeopardy to preserve the life of the Prophet? Who's the one that Rasulullah said in the Battle of Khaybar, who will hold the alam, who will hold the standard of the Muslim, he will be the one representing Islam, that he will be the one that's solving the problem of Khaybar, Ali ibn Abi Talib. Who's the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, pay sadaqah before you're asking a question, whispering to Prophet? Who's the one only person who gives sadaqah and asks question from the Prophet? Ali ibn Abi Talib. Who's the one that Rasulullah said, he is the one with truth and truth is with him? Ali ibn Abi Talib. And the examples goes on and on. And even if you go with the perspective of our Ahlul Sunnah brothers and sisters, who's the only one that Rasulullah said, Man kuntu mawla fahadha aliyun mawla. And let's, for the sake of the argument, said mawla means friend. Who else Rasulullah said that Ali is his friend? If I'm his friend, Ali is his friend. That's the reason Ali ibn Abi Talib is the most qualified to be the successor of the Prophet, not just the bloodline. But if somebody's from the bloodline and they're qualified, there's so many examples of them in Quran. Ibrahim and Ismail, Musa and Harun, Yaqub and Yusuf. We have so many bloodline that they're from the same family and they are becoming the prophets of God. A father and son become prophets of God, brothers become prophet of God, and there's no question, there's no nepotism, because Allah's criteria to choose them is not just the bloodline, it's their quality. And Allah said in the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, قَالَ وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي. Ibrahim said, oh Allah, you made me the Imam. What about my lineage? What about my offspring? How about my dhurriyyah? Allah said, قَالَ لَا يَنَالُ عَهْدِ الظَّالِمِينَ. This is an important ayah we have to remember. Surah Baqarah, I believe is 123 of Surah Baqarah. That Allah said is a very important ayah that we use in Shia ideology to talk about the isma and the infallibility of Ahlul Bayt. Because when Ibrahim said, what about the rest of my offspring? How about them? Allah said, my ahd and covenant will not go to those who are dhalim. If somebody is an oppressor, if he's a wrongdoer, la yanalu ahd al-dhalimin. An oppressor and a wrongdoer cannot inherit my covenant. And that's the reason we say the imam cannot be corrupt. An imam cannot be fallible, cannot be dhalim. Because the moment a person commits a sin, they become a dhalim themselves. So knowing that, we believe that the decision of the Imam Mujtaba alayhi salam is a decision is a decision that ultimately is for the khair of the Muslim Ummah. It's for the khair of Muslim Ummah. We try to understand it, we try to look at it from the different perspectives. So why Imam did what he did? Yeah, probably to preserve the life of Shias, probably because Muawiyah was very different from Yazid. He was very smart about how to cover his track. He was not somebody that exposed himself as the enemy of the religion. He would come, it literally was a wolf in basically a sheep's cover. It was all these, but this is our attempt to understand. But what we should know is with all these struggles to understand the action of the Imam, when we believe the Imam is infallible, their action is coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of their quality. And why Allah made the Imam? Same story, فَأَتَمَّهُ. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Ibrahim alayhi salam the Imam? Because he passed so many tests. And if you look at the life of Ahlul Bayt, we see that our Imams, they did not live a life without test either. If it's Ali ibn Abi Talib, he lived through the difficulty of being quiet for more than 20 years when his rightly position is being taken over by people who are the least qualified. That's a test. The man that according to his own word that we have, one of the complaints of Imam alayhi salam was this, that they call me names and they attribute kufr to me, that Ali is kafir. When Ali was the first one who prayed behind Prophet when nobody else did. And we have this word of Imam Ali, as he himself said, that when these people who accused me of kufr, they were worshipping idols and statues, I was worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a test. That you are in that level of iman and they call you kafir. And you still stand by and serve these people. Or Imam al-Mujtaba alayhi salam, who says, you believe that Muawiyah is wrong, I believe Muawiyah is wrong, let's go against this man. But they're being bribed and they're being, for different ways and method, sell Imam Hassan alayhi salam's side, including his own commander of army, to leave his side. This is a test, that in his own household, he's not in comfort. That his own wife eventually becomes his assassin. That's a test for Imam al-Mujtaba alayhi salam. And this is even a lesson in that. This is how our Imams were treating their family members. Even a family member would end up being their assassin. They were never abusive toward their own enemies within their own household. Even if it was their wife. Who was somebody who was against them. And you see the same thing about Imam Jawad alayhi salam. And for Abu Abdullah Hussein, we also know the test as well. For Imam Zain al-Abidin is another level of difficulty. 33 years after Shahada of Imam Hussein, Imam Zain al-Abidin was the Imam. 33 years. And this is not a comfortable time either. Because this is still Bani Umayyah dynasty in charge. There's still massacres and killing happening. Imam is under surveillance. And he cannot even teach directly. Few people Imam alayhi salam was to train, like Abu Hamza Thumali, Abu Khalid Kabili. Few names you find. It is not the same time as Imam Baghr and Imam Sadiq. That you see there are 5,000 students in one classroom of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. It's not like that. There are few. But that's the groundwork, that's the backbone for the coming of Imam Baqir. But Imam has to do that for 33 years. Buying slaves, those who are underprivileged, they don't have opportunity of education, Imam would purchase them, free them, and educate them. That was one method of Imam alayhi salam bringing change to society. Teaching supplication, and in the form of supplication, teaching authority of Allah. And in every dua of Imam Zain al-Abidin, you see that Imam starts with Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. That's the first. Usually, even within the dua, Imam repeated it. May Allah send blessing upon the Prophet and his family over and over to bring back the authority of the Prophet and his family. Because that's the form of attack against Islam. It's not an attack against a lot of rituals and practices of Islam. They're still happening. People still pray. People still go to Hajj. They're not being under any form of harm or damage. What's being damaged is the character of the Prophet. The Prophet is dead. Prophet passed away. He's gone. Now we do what we do. But you remember that that's not the case. That the name of the Prophet has to stay alive in order for this religion to flourish. So I want to, inshallah, talk about a hadith from Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. Sayyid salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. The hadith is narrated from Imam Baqir, from his father Imam Zain al-Abidin, from his father all the way to his grandfather Rasulullah. So hadith, the origin of the hadith is from the Prophet. But we see so many of the hadith of the Ahlul Bayt, they said that haddathani, told me. Who told me? My father. From his father, all the way the source goes to Rasulullah. And that's the reason the tradition from Ahlul Bayt is one of the most authentic we can find in regard to make sure the hadith is actually from the Prophet or was fabricated in the name of the Prophet, which unfortunately happened. We have so many fabricated and altered hadith in the name of the Prophet. So this hadith, which is being mentioned in Tuhaf al-Uqul, also Al-Khisal Sheikh al-Saduq, these are very authentic book of hadith we have. Imam alayhi salam said that Rasulullah said, ثلاث من كن فيهم من المؤمنين أو واحد. There are three qualities that if any of the believers, or at least one of these three qualities, all of them or one of them, if one of the mu'mineen have one of these three qualities, كان في كنف الله يوم القيامة. Such person will be under God's protection in the day of judgment. And these people, they will be in the sense of peace, يوم الفزع الأكبر, in the day that is a great horror and great fear for everyone because of their action and because of the concern of their ultimate judgment of Allah. These people who have these qualities, or at least one of them, they will be safe. They will be at peace. And you may ask why three, when you, inshallah, when I list them, you understand why. And you think about them, why Rasulullah mentioned these three qualities. And if somebody even have one of them, they will be safe from the great fright of the day of judgment. They will be under the shade of Allah's mercy. How is that possible? Because they're not about one action. It's about a mentality. The first one Rasulullah said, narrated as I said from Imam Baqir, from Imam Zain al-Abidin, the first one Imam alayhi salam said is to treat others and like for others what you like and treat yourself with. Treat others the way you want to be treated. That's the first one. Ma'a'ata nas, the one who give to people what he or she expect people to give him or her. This giving could be in a form of charity, in a form of helping, in any form. Anything that we deal with others, right? Because even when we backbite, we're contributing a negative, some form of harm to people. We're contributing, we're giving. Well, negatively. So the first one, and imagine how many sins come from lack of having this quality. Number one, Rasulullah said, treat others the way you want to be treated. Like and dislike for others where you like and dislike for yourself. Another word, al-insaf. Insaf. The word insaf comes from nisf, right? Half. Insaf in English translation is fairness. Be fair. It means that when we want to do anything, say anything, decide about anything, keep in mind, if somebody else do the same thing to us, says the same thing to us, to me, would I be okay with that? If the answer is yes, do it. Or if the answer is depends, that means don't do it. So that's, simple example we can say, but in business, we want to sell something to someone, and what we do is we cover the flaws of the product we have. We want to sell a car to somebody who's been in an accident, there's no report in the report of the car, and you say, okay, it's a car, it's a very good car. We don't say it's not been an accident. That's basically the shaitan minds how it works. We're not saying it's not been an accident, but we're not saying it's been an accident either. So we think because we're silent about the matter, it's going to be okay. Right? Because I did not say anything, it should make it okay. When in reality, that's what we call ghash in mu'amala, in business. When you cover up the flaw and the problem with your product, anything that you have, and you cover it and you hide it or you don't even say it, that business is a haram interaction. That's a deceive and a cheating form of mu'amala. When we do it, we say, that person should have been smart. It's their job to look around and make sure it's a good product they buy. It's not my problem that they're not smart enough. But the question is, we have to ask ourselves, if somebody else do this to us, how we feel about it? The answer is fine. We will be perfectly fine after buying the car, and after a few days start breaking down, we will be okay and happy about it, which I doubt any decent and sane person will be. You're right, you should do it. But any normal person will not be happy with that. It means you should not do that either. One of the greatest sign of corruption of the soul is double standard. How we know our soul is not healthy, is not salim anymore, that qalbin salim. One of the sign of that is double standard. And what I mean by double standard is that for us, being good is one thing, for others is something else. Sin is something to us and something else to others. From Imam Hussain we can learn that message. Imam first, he wanted to send his family, his own son, companions of Imam Hussain, out of their respect and manners that they had and adab that they had. So until we're alive, nobody from Bani Hashim would go. They insisted. Imam didn't say, okay, first my companion will go. The life is a life. And even if that life is Joan, the slave of Abadar, Ghulam of Abadar, there's no different for Abu Abdullah Hussain that if it's Joan is going to the battle. So when they insisted, when they used to come, Imam hesitated to give him permission. Imam didn't give him, okay, go. All of them, when they came, Imam hesitated to give him the permission to go to the battle. Except one time. When is that one time? When Ali al-Akbar went. That's the time Imam didn't hesitate. That's what his part of life is. It's part of his heart. It's the light of his eyes. He's sending, there's no hesitation. Go, my son. And his first of Bani Hashim goes. That's the quality of the Imam, that when Imam says, this is the quality that the people under the shade of Allah's mercy in the Day of Judgment will have. People will be at peace. When everybody else is scared in the Day of Judgment, these people will be at peace. This is the number one quality. to have insaf. If my child run around, they run around the house, and I get upset, people have no manners. They don't teach their children that they have to sit quietly. If our own child does it, it's okay. If they're children, they have to play, right? If they break other people's stuff, they should be okay. They're children. If they break our stuff, that's a problem. This double standard, we see it, we notice it, but we ignore it. So the mother-in-law was talking to her family and said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was so kind to me that He gave me the best son-in-law. It's such a great husband for my daughter, I couldn't ask for a better one. Which I don't think so many mother-in-laws would say ever. But let's say in this fictional story, this mother-in-law said, whatever luck I had from the son-in-law, I had the worst luck when it comes to daughter-in-law. The worst daughter-in-law ever. I don't know what sin I committed that Allah punished me with this girl. She is the worst wife for my son. So the poor person who was listening to this said, okay, they should have stopped them instead of stop doing riba and backbiting, but they didn't. Said, how so? That's, by the way, if you do that, you become an accomplice in the sin. When somebody starts backbiting and gossiping, when you ask more questions and push them deeper into riba, you're an accomplice. They open up more in their problem. So, but this person did. So how so? So, the reason my daughter-in-law is the worst daughter-in-law is because she doesn't cook, she doesn't clean, she doesn't work, she's an entire day she's home, she doesn't do anything, and when my poor son comes home, she asks him to leave the house and go eat out. And at the end of the day, after a week, she expects my son to buy her expensive gifts. Just, what kind of life is this? But the person says, how about your son-in-law? Why you're so great fond of him and, say so much nice thing about him? Say, yeah, my son-in-law is an angel fallen from the heaven. Because my daughter doesn't cook, doesn't clean, doesn't do anything. And at the end of the day, when my son-in-law comes and says, let's go eat out, doesn't expect her to cook, and he buys her expensive gifts and all that, it's a great son-in-law. That's the tragedy of life. The Quran tried to break that. It's not easy to change, by the way. It's easy to say. It's always easy to say. When we cut the line, when driving, right, there's an exit. We are the 20th car in this line and we go and we break the line. It's very hard to fight the temptation. But the reality is that insaf, those people are standing in line and you're the one who cut the line and go, or any other line for the matter of the argument. It's not easy. Because we think always we are special. And we say, oh, I'm busy. I'm in rush. It's like that nobody else is busy, nobody else is in rush. You're the only person who's busy. Just today in the airport I saw that. And the interesting thing is that it doesn't matter what religion you have, what ethnicity you have, what culture back, it doesn't matter. People see this. People see double standard. So this person was trying to cut the line in the airport. And as he was trying to cut the line, people said, what are you doing? He said, oh, I have a flight to catch. And they said, we know, we have also a flight to catch. We're not here for fun. Do you think so? Okay, what are we going to do today? Let's go to the airport and just stand in the TSA line. This is the fun thing we have. Are you missing your flight? That's different. They give you a different path. If you're missing your flight, they will give you. This person wasn't missing their flight. It wasn't. But they think that they're special because, again, they're busy or they're in a rush, that they deserve a special attention, special treatment. In marriage, that's the same issue. As a husband, it's okay that I visit my family, I check on my mom and dad, but my wife should not have the same kind of attitude toward her family. Or vice versa. As a wife, I have to check on my family, but my husband, you're married. Why you're spending so much time with you? You're married now. Double standard. And if we have that double standard, it will destroy our iman. If you want to learn one thing from the life of Ali ibn Abi Talib, from the life of Imam Hussein, I just mentioned an example. Give me one example that Ali ibn Abi Talib had double standard. When Kulthum borrowed something from Baytul Mal, Imam asked him, said, "What? This is a missing item in the Baytul Mal directory. Where is it?" And the person responsible for the public fund and the Baytul Mal said, "Your daughter, Kulthum, borrowed it." And Imam got upset. And Imam said, "If I knew you did this intentionally and you betrayed people's trust, I would have punished you right now. It was out of ignorance, but don't repeat it again. Don't let it happen again." And Imam went to Kulthum right away and said the same thing to Kulthum. That, "My daughter, do you think because you're the daughter of the Khalifa, you can borrow things from Baytul Mal? Did anyone else from the Muslimin had a right to borrow things from Baytul Mal? If I didn't know that you did it out of ignorance, I would have punished you right away." No double standard. And it's not easy. When it's in our favor, we like it. When it's against us, that's the problem. You know how I know double standard? When I give lecture about any topic, especially about family. I've noticed married couple, they're texting one another. Listen to what Allah is saying. The whole purpose of the lecture is that I listen. Not that I'm happy that my wife or my husband is going to pay attention. Because when you say they have to pay attention, it means I'm fine. Whatever I do is correct. I don't have any flaw. They have to be the one paying attention. And that never works, I promise you. If somebody doesn't pay attention themselves, you texting them that, "Oh, did you hear what the Shaykh said?" is not going to help your case. It's going to make it worse. If you're not texting, even looking at each other or pointing, is not going to help. So at the end of the manabir and lectures, when you're going home and you're driving together, please don't use what you heard in a lecture against one another. You ultimately take that shawq, that enthusiasm to learn from Islam anymore. Because now it's just armory. You come and get weapons to attack each other. It's not a moment of self-reflection. It's not a moment of learning about, how to be a better mu'min, a better husband, a better wife. It's just an armory. You're here to get more tools for your own battle. That's the way. And instead of that, you say, "Oh, this is what I've learned. I really appreciate this," or I wish we could do something to learn this better, or how you can help me to do this better. So that's number one. Rasulullah said, if you want to be protected from the great fear of the Day of Judgment, to be under Allah's shade of Allah's mercy in the Day of Judgment, treat others the way you want to be treated. Have no double standard. Number one. Number two, Rasulullah said, don't criticize others unless you get rid of that flaw yourself. Ma ya'ib li'akha. Don't criticize, don't mention their shortcomings, their flaw, their mistakes, unless you get rid of that flaw yourself. That's for parents, that's for friends, that's for sheikhs, that's for everyone. If I have a flaw, I cannot expect people to listen to me in order to get rid of that flaw. That's very obvious. If as a sheikh, as a father, I'm disrespectful to my father, I don't care how many tradition I read, how many times I tell kids to be respectful. That's not going to have any impact. It's going to have a negative impact, by the way, because it indicates nifaq, hypocrisy. So it's important to keep that in mind. You tell your children, respect your mom, respect your dad. Which I said, best way is to tell our children to respect is always take your husband or wife's side. You can't tell your children to respect you. That doesn't seem good. Mothers teach their children to respect their fathers. Fathers teach their children to respect mothers. Be each other's representative. But that doesn't work if you're not respecting each other. And you think it's never happened, it did happen. In a community I know, and a father was a smoker. Smoking cigarette all the time. Outside the community, the moment, give a break from the Majlis and go smoke a cigarette and come back. I remember he came to me and said, I've been telling my son to don't smoke, but he doesn't listen to me. So, are you serious? I said, no, seriously, I know, but I've been dealing with this for 20 years. It's too late for me. I said, what do you mean it's too late for you? If it's too late for you, it's too late for him too. If you cannot change it, they cannot change either. So, but I know what I'm doing is wrong. He said, if you know, but you cannot be the one giving him the advice to don't smoke. It's not going to help. Yes, we have so many traditions that said, even learn from a munafiq. Means if even a munafiq says something good, they don't practice, still follow because what they say is good. That's fine. But from the point of view of the one who wants to preach, the one who wants to help other people, we cannot preach something that we don't practice. We cannot. My dear sister, next time when you're cooking and it's a time of salat, the best thing can help your daughter to pray is not to continue cooking and say, go do your prayer first. Stop wherever you are in the middle of the cooking, do your prayers and say, okay, come pray with me. That's very difficult, but that's the best way you can preach. If you do that, you show the importance of prayers as a father, as a mother, as a teacher, they will learn. That's number 2. To don't criticize others, to don't mention their aib unless you get rid of that aib yourself. That aib, I'm not saying you be infallible, you never made a mistake in your life, no. It's not to justify people who never speak up when wrong is happening, because so who am I to judge people? It's not about judgment, it's about helping people. It's about guiding people. But about that specific matter, you want to help people, you have to be self-taught, self-help yourself. That's important. But not saying that you should be infallible. No, you could have a flaw in other aspect of life. Let me give you an example. You were not a good student as a child. You did not accomplish a lot in education. Maybe in that aspect you cannot give a lot of big advice, but you did your prayers all the time. You can give advice as a person to do your prayers. Whatever aib you don't have, you can give advice on that one. It doesn't mean you have to be perfect in every aspect of your life. On that specific matter that you are, alhamdulillah, successful, give advice on that piece. That's fine. And the third one, which inshallah I will continue tomorrow night more about the third one, is that Imam narrated from the Rasulullah, is that لم يقدم قدما أو رجلا حتى يعلم هذا العمل في طاعة الله أو في معصيته. Which translate that don't take a step, don't move your hand or feet. In other words, don't move a muscle unless you evaluate if this decision I'm going to make, is it causing Allah to be pleased with me, or is causing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's disobedience before doing something. قدما أو رجلا, don't take a step, don't use your hand, don't use your feet, unless that you're sure that if this decision is for ita'at of Allah or ma'asiyat of Allah. And that's another topic, inshallah, we have to discuss tomorrow night. Because the issue is that sometimes we act. There is a famous saying, which I think is anonymous. I'm not sure if it's from somebody well known, that said when wise people are contemplating and thinking if they should do something or not, ignorant people, they finish that job 100 times. It means that wise people, they are very cautious about what they do. And on the other hand, ignorant people, they first do it, and then they think, oh, what I've done. As Imam Ali says, one of the signs of ignorance is those who apologize a lot. That's from jahl. The one who make mistake and mistake and mistake, and oh, I'm sorry, all the time. It's important to apologize when you have to. But to make habit of apologizing and making mistakes a habit, that's not acceptable. That's not what an aql does. And that's something that unfortunately is being promoted even today. Act, do it, just do it, right? That's the motto for some people. Just do it. And the thing is, no, please, just don't do it sometimes. It's dangerous to just do it. People act upon their desires, they ruin their marriage. Just do it. People break their legs and hands, just do it. You have a goal, stand by it, when in reality, it's important to sometimes contemplate, think, ponder before you do what you do. There's a lot of those rocks that was dropped into the well, and there's a saying in Farsi that they said sometimes a crazy or an insane person drops a rock into the well, and 100 wise people have to come together to see how we have to now pull that out and take it out. And in other words, sometimes an ignorant creates a problem that we need a lot of wise people to resolve that issue. That's the reality. A fitna within communities, break up communities. One person create a fitna. It's very simple. I remember I was 13 years old. I was, at that time, there were programs that they'd circle around houses. There was every Tuesday in somebody's house. It was a tradition in Mashhad. They used to do it that way. And it was these hayat, it was a Majlis program. And every week, and people come, and at the beginning was recitation of Quran, and was for example, Tuesday was Dua Tawassul, and then was some ahkam at the end. And I was 13, I was responsible for the Quran. People would come, read Quran, correcting the way they read Quran, teaching them tajweed. And I remember that program, that jalasa they call it, that hayat was divided to two. Over what do you think? Sound system. It seems funny, but it's true. Over a sound system, they make two jalasa. I think both sides, they came because I tried to resolve the issue. It was too late, because what happened over the weekend, one of the members went and said, okay, can I have the sound system? And the person who was responsible to keep it said, it's Baitul Mal, is belong to everyone. I cannot just give it to you. You should have a consent. So me, I'm one of the members. And arguing over that, I said, okay, I don't want your sound system and I don't want your hayat anymore. I'm going to buy my own, and I'm going to make my own hayat. And they did. It seems funny. And today is not that different. The only thing is that the sound system is different. It's not sound system anymore. It's something more ridiculous sometimes. One person, two people, create that fitna. And now you try to bring all the wisdom you can. Arbitration, mediation, Islam, whatever you know, use Quran, use tradition, use logic, use common sense, whatever you know, it doesn't work. Because usually when something breaks, it's not that easy to fix it. That's the reason the hadith said, if you want the safety of Day of Judgment, make sure before you do something, think about it. Is this action for the sake of Allah's pleasing, rida of Allah, ita'at of Allah, or this action lead to disobedience of Allah before you do the action? Inshallah, we talk about that tomorrow, which is again, inshallah, in the next few nights, next 2 nights, will be a topic, hopefully it's practical to all the issues and problems of our communities. I've heard people expecting more of a theological speeches. Sometimes they look for more of a, let's say, historical speeches and lectures. I respect all different opinions, but when I travel, one of the reasons I travel personally is to gain some form of experience from what other communities are dealing with, what the issues they have, and also share my experience with the communities I'm working in Southern California as well. And it's a good way of learning. For me, I learn as well as inshallah I'll be able to share what I know with others as well. But what I'm telling you is many communities, these topics that I talk about, a lot of them are same. They're same issues. Different names, different probably nationality and cultural backgrounds, but the issues are the same issues. And one of them is hubbul jah, the love of power, the love of position. Who has to be in charge? Who is worthy of being in charge? And it's one of the most destructive forces that Imam Ali beautifully in Nahj al-Balagha described. You know, when I was younger, I used to read Nahj al-Balagha, and I would always, when you read, you try to find yourself and your problem and your dunya and your world within Nahj al-Balagha. And when I read it, I understand that how money can corrupt people. I understood that dunya could corrupt people. I could get how ignorance could corrupt people. That was very obvious to me to see. But always when it comes to maqam, when it comes to a status, when it comes to position, I will never got it. How is that destructive to people? Until I moved to the United States. Now I know. Because over there wasn't that big deal. Probably it existed, but it wasn't as evident. It wasn't. Because here we have professionals, more professionals that they're educated and they're very good in their own field. But sometimes that unfortunately creates an egotism, a sense of believing that whatever you say is right, regardless. Because I'm a professional. And I could be a professional in my own field, but I don't know anything about something different. And I tell as a sheikh, if you ask me a question about real estate, you're probably going to make a very bad decision in your process of buying a house. I don't know about it, and I never claim I know about that. Same thing about in other professions. But when it comes to context of faith, because everybody believes that they are believers, of course it's different. Everybody have iman, everybody believe in Allah, believe in Islam, those who come to centers. This doesn't mean that I'm qualified to lead. You are a Muslim, of course, you're a mu'min, you're respected, but doesn't mean you're qualified to lead. And as a misunderstanding, hopefully Allah help us to never fall into ignorance and jahal, and never to misunderstanding what we know and what we're capable of. And sometimes it's hard to be a follower, but to be a good follower is better than to be a corrupt leader. May Allah inshallah give us that tawfiq. And we dedicate the thawab of the Majlis tonight to the example of bravery, the example of standing by justice, an example of going through difficulties and tribulation without jeopardizing your faith. And that is Hazrat Zainab salamullah alayha. We dedicate the thawab of this majlis to Hazrat Zainab and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the honor of Hazrat Zainab to give us the tawfiq to be worthy of the intercession and the shafa'a of Ahlul Bayt, especially Hazrat Zainab salamullah alayha. Let's inshallah start the musibah with the salam to the beloved of Zainab, Abu Abdullah and Hussein. Salamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifina'ik عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين ورضي the title of Zainab is Ummul Masa'ib, the mother of all tribulations. Why Zainab is called that? Because when Zainab Salamullah alayha came to the land of Karbala, when they arrived, and Abu Abdullah said, this is our final abode, this is where we land. When Zainab Salamullah alayha wanted to come down from the camel, there was Ali Akbar, there was her son, there was Abu al-Fadl Abbas, all the family members around Zainab. Make sure that Zainab is not going to be among the strangers when she needs to come off the camel. But by the eve of Ashura, not that long after Abu Abdullah left Zainab and encouraged Zainab to be patient, said, Alaykunna bis-sabr, my sister Zainab, don't let the enemy see you're impatient. When they attacked the camp of Abu Abdullah, Hussein alayhi salam, this is Zainab looking after the children of Hussein. This is Zainab salamullah alayha that protecting the widows and the children. From one tent to another, Zainab is running. Imam Zain al-Abidin says, my aunt Zainab, I came to my tent and helped me to come out of the tent that was burning. And if it wasn't because of my aunt Zainab, I wouldn't see the next day. This is the musibah of Zainab. She is looking for the children. But after she gathered all the women, all the children, Zainab noticed that there are 2 children that they are missing. What Zainab should do? Zainab Salamullah alayha made a promise to Hussein that she will look after the children and orphans. Now Zainab, it is night and Zainab is looking for children. Kulthum and other women are looking for these children. As Zainab is looking and searching the desert, she noticed that there are these 2 children who was under these bushes. They hugged each other. She called them once after one, she called them multiple times, once, twice. After every time she called them, there was no reaction from these children. As Zainab approached them, she noticed that these children, out of fear that their lives was lost, Zainab Salamullah alayha picked up the lifeless body of these children. Zainab came back. It was the last musibah of Zainab. No, this was not the last musibah of Zainab. Which was the greatest musibah of Zainab? When Zainab returned to Medina, her husband came look for Zainab. Abdullah ibn Jafar said, did you see Zainab? And she passed by the Zainab and he didn't recognize Zainab. Zainab called, Abdullah, come. This is your Zainab. You did not recognize Zainab because Zainab's hair wasn't white when she left Medina. When Zainab left you, she had her family all around her. But Abdullah, you know what was the first thing Zainab said to Abdullah? Said, Abdullah, they took us to the Majlis of Shara. They took the family of Abu Abdullah among the strangers. The prying eyes of non-mahram they were looking at. وَأَلَا لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون اللهم إنا نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم العز الجل الأكرم بكتابك المستحكم وبنبيك المكرم وبأهل بيت المعصومين استجب دعواتنا يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك اللهم أدخل على أهل القبور السرور اللهم أغني كل فقير اللهم أشبع كل جائع اللهم اكسو كل عريان اللهم اقض دين كل مدين، اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل أسير، اللهم اصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين، اللهم اشف كل مريض، اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك، اللهم اقض عنا الدين واغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير. For the soul of all marhumin, for the shifa and healing of all those who requested dua, those who are ill, and inshallah hastening the return of Imam of our time, please recite Surah Fatiha with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد